Thanks, Steve. I'm going to put my notes on there so I don't get lost. How's it, guys? It's a really, really great privilege to be here. Thanks, Fred, for asking me and taking the risk. It's quite strange. We're talking about, I thought this morning I was sitting prepping the talk and I'm talking about notebooks and pen and paper to everybody that bought tickets about how to design an app. So it's a little awkward. But I think there's something really important. So what I want to just share with you a little bit about human rights and about why we do what we do, and something that it's like a philosophy or an idea that forms the backbone of the business, and something that I really believe in, and I hope it'll just spark maybe a little bit something in you. So basically, the human rights concept is really simple. For every notebook that you buy for your ideas, we give a pack of 5 storybooks to a child who needs them. So that's the basic idea. We've given away about 50 to 60,000 books now. Company is a couple of years old, so it's pretty rad, and it's really awesome, the stories that come back. But the idea behind the notebook, the idea behind pen and paper is, there's almost like a whole philosophy or something behind it that is really, really important. So I just want to take you a little bit on that journey and tell you a couple of stories. I like telling stories. So let's start with this. If you take your hands, right? Everybody here have hands? So awkward if somebody doesn't. But what did your hands smell of? Like entrepreneur balls. Cocoa and or like a little bit of wine or something like. I've got a little bit of a thing with smell, so I'm quite obsessed with it. Smell is it's the biggest memory trigger. So I know I'm sure all of you've got your favorite smell and something that smells your mom's cooking, grandma's cooking, or you can smell the lawn being mowed when you were little, or it just triggers those memories immediately. So smell is such a fascinating thing for me. And when you smell your hands, your hands actually tells a little bit of a story. It tells where you've been today and what you've done today. So you can smell what you've done. So I actually posted this on Facebook the other day. I was like, what does your hands smell of today? And people were like, bum cream, old books, ink, paint, paper, whatever, all these different things. And it's so fascinating to see what we touch and what we do and how this smell kind of sticks to us. And it tells us little stories. So yeah, smell is a really kind of interesting thing. Do you know, in our culture today, we don't for some reason we don't really own our own smell anymore. We have covering up rituals. So we all have covering up, especially today when it's insanely hot. I was traveling with t-shirts in the back of my car all the time, changing them between meetings because I was really smelly. And we've got covering up rituals. We buy little, cans and we spray even more. And we have got a ritual in the morning which you wash and scrub and trying to hide your scent. And we've got even more than one bathroom in most of our houses, so that we've got so many people and we need to make more space for everybody's little covering up rituals. And I just think that there's something for me about just smelling your hands, because it's this unintentional thing. It tells a story. There's no intention unless you put on some hand cream now to hide that smell. But there's something about showing up just the way that you are without covering up. There's something about just being really present. And for some reason, scent is a part of that. Most people smell I don't know, high school boys' bathroom. You know that smell? Kind of Status and Brute, and when I was growing up at least, Status and Brute and all that stuff, that heavy kind of crazy smell. But there's something about just showing up about who you are. But we don't do that anymore. We live this very, very weird existence. Just standing in this building, I was standing in here looking out at the mountain, and I was thinking, how weird is this? This is this little rectangular box, and we've got rectangular little windows there, and we drove here or took a Uber here or whatever in our little rectangular car and got out, sitting on a little square seat. And when we take out our little black rectangles out of our pockets and we scroll through them, and when we work, we have little rectangles we work on, and we punch little square keys, and we have little square thing. And then nothing else in nature has got any straight lines to it. Nothing. all the things that we create are things that have like straight lines. Nature can't think straight at all. It's just we to do that. And we do this weird thing. We live completely separate from everything that's out of there, and we go there every now and again as like a special event. Or, and we do really weird things. We live this very disembodied existence. I think at some point we figured out whatever's out there is really scary, and we need to like block ourselves out from whatever's out there, and we build houses and put in glass and everything, and then we realized, oh crap, we have to exercise because we're dying. So now what we do is we go out from our little air-conditioned offices or homes, and then get into our little air-conditioned cars and drive to our little air-conditioned like Virgin Active Health Club or wherever, and then you go and sit in like a little room and sweat. It's like, where does this like not make sense? So we live this really weird disembodied existence, and we've separated our lives into these, like, I think just these little compartments. We've got like mind, body, spirit, or however you want to, the terms you use, mind, body, soul, or psyche, like, and we've got categories for each, and even like days of the week are assigned. So you got like Monday to Friday is like mind days, and then Saturday is maybe like body day, and then Sunday or like Friday, it depends on where you go, would be like soul day or like spirit day. And we've got like little categories for everything, and little places for everything. So we've got places for work, and places for exercise, and then places for thinking, and places for praying, and places for this, places for that. So we have this like compartmentalized lives, which I think is really, really strange. And I think to a big extent, like very, very super unnatural. And when we add tech into that mix, it often causes us to be living like even more disembodied existence. I was reading an article in the week about how kids in Japan are falling in love with their own Snapchat image. And they get really angry that it don't actually look like that. Nobody has lashes like that. Nobody has like little dog ears but they're falling in love with their own little Snapchat image. And we do this. We live these separate lives out on social media, and we, take pictures, take selfies. One of my friends says, his goal weight is not to have to take selfies from such a high angle. Like that's like his goal. So the lower you go, the worse it is. So you have to go really high, then pump the contrast and like take out all the white, so that you take out all the little wrinkles and whatever. So we live these weird lives, and especially like I can always like have so much fun on Facebook and wherever, where people put on, the books and the movies that they want people to think that they've read and seen. Like, so girls always put like Pride and Prejudice. It's like, I know you have never read Pride and Prejudice. It's a really boring book. And like the guys, if you're clever as a guy, you also put Pride and Prejudice. But so we put like all these kind of fake things, and we live this like continued like disembodied existence. And it's just really, it seems really strange to me. Like my son, Luther, a couple of years ago, he's 9 now. A couple of years ago, he said, no, he wants to work, he wants to earn some pocket money. So he went and he sat down in front of my computer and like typed away, just like slamming the keys. And then after like half an hour, he goes, I've just worked. I need money. So I was just thought, this is what his idea is of what it means to work. It means you sit in front of a screen and you hit the square button, so you move the mouse around. That's what work is. And it just occurred to me, like, I wonder what it would have been 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50, 100 years ago, 500 years ago. What does work actually mean? And I was also watching this strange video. I get into lots of weird stuff on the internet. Not that, like other stuff. But this weird video where it just said, like, in the past, you would have been able to see which type of work a person does just by looking at their body. Whether or not they were a weaver, or whether they worked with a farmer or a blacksmith. You could see by the calluses on their hands and the shape of their body about what type of work they do. And we can't do that anymore. We all look basically the same because we all do exactly the same thing. I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up really dreaming that I could sit and stare at a rectangle all day long. Like, that wasn't my life goal. But yeah, this is what all of us do and what we do all the time. So the thing is, we've separated ourselves, and I find not healthy, obviously, to live this disembodied existence, to live only in your head. Our bodies, to a large extent, have just become this way to get our brains around. to like move them around a little bit. Or our bodies at most have become like a commodity or something you use to attract other people or something. We're completely kind of disconnected from it, and we hate it when it ages and when it gets old and when it gets saggy or whatever, and we try to resurrect it and rage against the dying of the light. But we live a completely disconnected from our bodies, but it wasn't always like this. This is not the way that we are created to be. This is not the way that we have evolved. So what's fascinating for me, I love like ancient cultures, so I read quite a bit of ancient manuscripts and things like that, hence all the different interests. So in ancient times, in ancient Rome, for example, here's like a cool story. In ancient Rome, your character was judged by your gait. Your gait meaning the way that you carry yourself. So you could see somebody's status by the way that they walked. So, for example, in the manuscripts, when the Senate argued about whether or not Cleopatra's son was actually Julius Caesar's son, they didn't talk about facial features or obviously not about DNA or anything like that. They talked about, look at the way that he carries himself. He must be the son of an emperor. And there was this really interesting thing that if you were a part of the elite, you would carry yourself in a sort of an exaggerated, stately manner, and walk sort of slowly, but not too slowly. Just walk sort of slowly and graceful, in a stately manner. And then slaves used to move really, really quickly. So slaves ran everywhere, obviously. They need to get stuff done really quickly. And then you would walk, if you were part of the elite or want to be known as the elite, you carry yourself slowly, but not too slowly, because women walked slowly. So you have to be like a little bit one step higher than a woman. So you have to walk a little bit faster, but not too fast, because then you're a slave. So there's a whole thing about carrying yourself properly in your body. And then what's also interesting and kind of scary is the way that ancient people understood bodies, that bodies could contain knowledge. And that, for example, here's one. It was said that whipping a slave serves a pedagogical function, like a teaching function, because their bodies can understand that. And it was also said that whipping an elite person would not have the same effect. It would only cause shame because their bodies can't understand that. And this was like science. So there was always this big understanding about how we are very, very, very much connected to our bodies, and how important that is actually to be kind of part of the place where you are, where you walk. So for me, I don't know, just getting back into your body and getting out of your head for just a second is super, super important. Super, super important just as a human being. And when you're creating a business, when you're designing something new, it's to like keep that in mind. What does it mean to actually walk through a city? So, I mean, fortunately, we live in a city that's very, very, very walkable and awesome. And cities all over the world are trying to figure out how to become more walkable. The cities of the future will all be like walkable cities, and the most valuable property will be the property where you can walk to school, walk to work, walk to your place of worship, walk to the shops, wherever everything is close enough to walk towards. There's even a little app I saw the other day. It says it rates the property on its walk score. So it's not an app about places to eat. It's an app to buy property. So you can rate it and then see this place's walk score is really high, it's really little, which is fascinating and interesting. But when you walk, you actually engage your body and your mind at the same time. When you walk, you place your body like in a certain place. And there's something else that happens. You get a sense of your environment you don't have before. I mean, there's many, many stories about how Steve Jobs and a lot of other big entrepreneurs went for regular walks to think about big ideas, to get more creative. It gets the blood flowing. You have your best ideas while walking. Nietzsche said, for example, any idea that was formed not while walking is not worthwhile anyway. And to have walking meetings, I know even like Mark Zuckerberg, I think he learned it from Steve Jobs, has walking meetings. We walk around and talk because it just does something different. It does something very, very, very different to your body. And the very important thing of being located in a specific place. When the Franciscan monks used to plant, when they decided to plant a vineyard, they would go out into the field and then taste the soil to see whether or not the soil is good enough for them to plant a vineyard there. And for us, that is such a foreign idea, such a foreign concept. This idea of the French word for it, some of you, if you're wine drinkers, you'll probably know it. It's called terroir. It means place, like to taste the place of the thing. And for me, what I get so insanely annoyed with businesses and ideas and things is it doesn't have a sense of place. It doesn't have a sense of place at all. It seems disconnected completely from the place where it was born. And I always get really, really annoyed and really frustrated with that because there's so much value and so much treasure to design something and build something that has weight to it, that feels a little bit heavy, like it sits somewhere. And we tend to live out in the cloud or just live out in our minds, and it shouldn't be that. It should be more than that. It should be like akin to taking a walk, which I think is really, obviously, super important. And it's just this beauty of walking around cities and getting lost. If you've ever traveled anywhere or just around our own city, just walking around and getting lost and finding things that are unexpected and finding things that are strange. I remember on a couple of our trips, we got lost and ended up spending way more money than we did at a little French bistro and drank more wine than any normal person should. And it's amazing. We had no money for the rest of the trip, but it was amazing. And it would never have happened if we didn't just walk and we didn't get that sense of place and location. So what we really need, in this insanely, it sounds weird to say it, but in this insanely high-tech world, just to stay sane, we need to be just as high touch on the other side. So we don't need to be less high tech. I mean, I love my phone. I'm super addicted. We don't need to be less high tech. We just need to be equally high touch so that there's a harmony in between the two. And so that whatever we create in this space speaks to this space and also exists in that space. And being high touch. I think, for me, the world is really, really distrusting and continually distrusting of big meta-narratives, big stories that people are telling us and trying to sell us. Nobody trusts governments anymore. Nobody trusts big media anymore. We trust things that are small. We trust things like the local cheesemaker and the guy that's making beer in his basement and the girl sewing cushions, on her mom's sewing machine. We love stuff like that because there's an honesty to it and something that's beautiful. We don't like big things anymore. The world is splintering and splintering more and more and more. So, and this small things exist in this world of high touch. It doesn't necessarily exist only in the world of high tech. So holding these two things together, which sounds like a paradox, and it is, because both are true and both are equally valuable. But with the moment when you hold that tension and you hold it properly, you can create something that's really, really awesome and really, really fascinating. So, and this is the reason that we make notebooks in an era where everybody's whipping out their phones. I mean, I don't know if you used to have it. I was in school 25 years ago, so I've lost it. I have a little callus on my middle finger there. Did anybody else used to have one? Used to have one, right? You don't have them anymore. You know what mine has been replaced by? A little dent on my pinky. Does anybody else have that? Have you ever noticed your pinky, if you're right-handed? Hold up your pinky and compare it to your left hand. Do you know where that little dent comes from? From resting on your finger, your phone resting on your finger. And what we really want to do is we want our calluses back. Right? I don't want dents anymore, I want a callus. Because when you take notes, it engages so much more of your brain. Up to 3 times more of your brain when you're taking notes, because it's so visceral and real. When you take notes with a pen and paper rather than on your phone, 3 times more of your brain is activated. It's much better to study taking notes than typing away on a computer or on a phone. Much better. And for creating ideas, it's much better to sit and draw. I mean, that's the number one tip. If you're in a meeting, it's you always have a freaking notebook. You always have a notebook, never on your laptop, especially not on your laptop. Not on your laptop, not on your tablet or whatever, notebook. And you sit next to the person. So it's my number one tip. You sit not opposite, next on the corner of the table so that you can draw and show ideas. And then you can level up from that, and then afterwards take pictures of the notes with your phone and then email it to them. Go, this is what we discussed, this is a kind of our plan, this is the strategy, So it takes forever to do a doodle on a phone or on a note, but it's great in a notebook. And then what's even better than that is taking action, like Fred earlier said, taking action from your notes. When you're writing them down to make little blocks at the end of the day and go, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do. And there's something about that grounds us so much more, that makes our world so much more high touch. And I believe that it gives something back of our humanity. Just like this very base thing that we are actually in our bodies, we are actually here, we exist in a certain time and place, and you need to own that. So, and even bigger than that, it asks the question of what does a business look like that exists in Cape Town? And how does it differ from one that exists in Joburg or PE or Bloemfontein or Paris or London or New York? And it should be different. It can't be the same because it comes from a different place. It grows from different soil. And I believe that is the key to something that's really, really, really awesome. Because it's always the specificity of something, the particularity of one thing that leads to something that is massive and big. It's always like that. Always when you find something awesome, people chase it down and they go, I want that little thing that was made in that little coffee shop because that's the most awesome thing on the entire planet. It's worth a ton more than something that was mass produced on an assembly line. That is what I want to leave with you. And that's why we make notebooks, so you can write your cool ideas in them, and then so we can give storybooks away to kids. So everybody wins. So you better walk out. I saw Fred, I was like gasping, because he's selling them cheaply. They're supposed to be $2.49, they're $1.95. So no more storybooks for kids. No, so grab them while you can, dude. They're really, really cool and rad. So thank you for having me, and awesome.